Are we working? Are we here? Are we live? What's going on? What's going on, YouTube? I can't tell. Can you hear me? Oh, there we go. Wait, no. Are you seeing anything? Why am I not, There we go. Sorry. It was, on my end, it was just not showing anything for a good 10, 15 seconds. So, yes. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are we doing? Seeing and hearing, that's good. That's good. But me, I'm asking, you know, I would suspect that you are a sighted person if you are here. Or hearing as well. But yes, good to see you all. Matthew, Ty, Gary, Sashin, 50, IR, Frank, DB Cooper, Sean, Nikhil, Kasim, Sammy, Simon. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And thank you as always to the people who have joined as a member as well of the channel. It means a lot to me. MPB, my friend, how you doing? Cheetan, Hamza, Peter, Matt, Sakari, Joe, Glenn, Michael. Good to see you all. Paul as well. Yes, good to see you all. So happy to see you here today as we have a quiet day from the United side of things, perhaps, maybe. No, we've got a lot to talk about today. Obviously, there's going to be some big Champions League games on later, and all of that. David, Bazimon, Noah, Jamie Jackson. Jamie Jackson is always antagonizing the manager in these press conferences, you know. But hey, it is what it is. Taking notes. Good. Well, you know, a lot of things. Hit the like button, James. Yes, please. Thank you to everybody who is here. Please put the like button. Smash the like button and all of that. I really appreciate it. Did you see your boy performance last night? You mean Rashford? I did indeed. And I really think that Unai made a really big mistake. Taking him off. I don't know why he did that. When you're in a big game and you have a forward who is running through people, you ride the momentum. I think Unai made a big mistake there, but Villa nearly got back in that. Is it a 10 and 2 strikers? We will definitely talk about all that. Here, let me show you the agenda. The agenda here. We're going to talk about Onana and the goalkeepers. We're going to talk about Cunha and Simons and some of the 10s. We're going to talk about sales and Champions League. We're going to talk about the midfield. We'll talk about Lyon as well. We will get to all of that. I heard United's getting a defensive midfielder in the Colorado area, surname Rose. Yeah, my son is working his way up there, you know. He's pretty good. Is it a 10 and 2 strikers? No, but I'll explain. I will explain. Just here for the yap. That's the best part of the whole thing. Gosh, I did a video yesterday that kind of summarized a lot of things, and we're seeing a little bit more of some of the things of that come out today. We've seen a few more points made, but yeah, let's get right into it. Again, thank you all for being here. Again, please like, share the stream, all of that, and then I will get to it and get going here. Just a moment. Good deal. Okay, let's do it. Speaking on Onana and the goalkeepers, obviously, you know, Ruben Amorim confirms today that Onana will be starting against Lyon tomorrow. It's probably not much of a surprise. Obviously, Bayindir is not played a lot of games and is not convincing everyone or anything. And I think that, Amorim will probably look at it and say, we want continuity, at least where we've been a keeper we've been familiar with, even if we've become familiar as well with the mistakes that he made. He was probably really happy with the with the performance on the whole. When you look at the game as a whole against Lyon, the performance itself was pretty good. We should have won, obviously, quite easily in the end. And so we'll probably be looking at the performance and everything. But it is a bit of a, when he answered the question from Jamie Jackson about whether we want a keeper this summer, obviously he didn't particularly answer it, and he did dodge it. And as I've said for a while, there's definitely a decent chunk of faith lost in Onana, in the keepers, and it is something United are looking at and have been looking at for the most of the season. This was obviously confirmed recently. Romano saying we'll look at a young keeper. There's been other talk of keepers. There's a story this morning from Italy about Milinkovic-Savic as a keeper. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think he's got a 20 million release clause or something like that. Bayindir could also be sold, obviously. The problem you have here is that you have a couple of different scenarios, right? Number one is that if there's not a decent, substantial offer for Onana this summer, he will still be here. That doesn't necessarily mean that we won't get a keeper. But, we also have Bayindir who could be sold. And so there's a few different potential scenarios here where Onana could stay, in which case, obviously, Ruben Amorim will want to build him up and all of that. And then you will also have, wanting to get another young keeper in that would compete. That was plan A. That was the plan at the start of the season. I keep going back to that we wanted to bring in a young keeper to compete with Onana. At this stage, one of those young keepers probably would beat him in a competition. And, but that was certainly plan A at the start of the year. So the factors that will contribute to this are, number one, if an offer comes in for Andre Onana this summer. If an offer comes in, then United will very likely let him know, hey, we probably want to move you on. Now, this game is huge on that basis, right? I mean, Onana's only chance at redemption is not just to play okay. Because if United go out, even if he doesn't make a mistake, we will all be talking still about the errors he made in the first leg that cost us this. He has to do really well between this game and the next few games in the Europa League, because the Premier League is dead, in order to redeem himself. And realistically, we've got to help get us through to the final. He needs to have a big, big game to have anything for his future. One sec, sorry. So yeah, he has to have a very, very big game in order to kind of save things for his future. So a few factors in whether we get a goalkeeper are pretty simply. Number one, does an offer come in for Onana? And, would we be able to one sec, I'm sorry. Would they be able to sell him on where they don't take a loss, and that they can find somebody that they can get at a reasonable price that we would then be able to afford? So that's number one factor. The second factor is whether if we move on Bayindir, who is expected to move on at the start of the season. I'm not saying he necessarily is now, but he might be expected to move on at the end of the season, and wants to play at the first team. That was his ambition. That was the reason he was looking to move earlier in the year. It's probably still a factor. United purchased Altay Bayindir for, how much did they purchase him for? 4 million. So after 2 seasons, it's been now, right? he will. I mean, effectively, he's 2.5 million is what's left. If you and he's obviously shown he's a competent enough keeper. I think it would be really smart for United to play Bayindir through the Premier League games remaining, raise his value, get him on the pitch more, and then if you're selling him for 8 to 10 million, even that little, you're making a profit. And this is another route that will allow United to spend in the keeper position. But realistically, we're looking at 20, 30 million. Now, the only other factor in all of this, which Ruben Amorim alluded to, and it certainly ties into a few of the other deals that we're going to discuss in here, are if United get Champions League, because they cannot afford within their budget to spend any of their budget on the keeper without Champions League. They have too many other things that they need to do, too many other positions they need to address. Even with sales, they do not want to spend any of their budget on the keeper if they do not have Champions League. So I'm not saying that applies to the case of if you were to sell Bayindir, because then you have to buy a keeper, or if you were to sell Onana. But in terms of if there's any extra budget, if you sell Onana and you just break even, and you need to spend some of your budget, then United will need Champions League to do that. They have been looking at keepers, they are, but I don't know who they're going to get at this point, because as I said in a recent video, James Trafford's the one I'd heard the most, but I think he's quite likely to go somewhere else. I think that at this point, from what I've heard, he's more likely to move elsewhere at this point in time. So that's a consideration. So really, this is one that is super up in the air as to what happens now. Can Onana redeem himself? Can he, I guess, give anybody any confidence? And will he leave? Does he leave? Is there the possibility of leaving? All sorts of factors in that. I wanted to ask, just out of the curiosity for the chat here, is it the right call? It's rough, as if United does well and gets to the Champions League, it probably means Onana played well, sort of a catch-22. And the thing is, though, then that's fine. You know what I mean? But at the same time, that doesn't mean we won't get a keeper. Will City buy back James Trafford to replace Ederson? That is a sincere possibility, sports fan. Yes. Yeah. I'm curious of people's thoughts on this. I'm not sure the answer myself, if it's the right call. I don't, Bayindir doesn't inspire a ton of confidence either. I'm not sure there's a better decision to be made anywhere. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm curious as to what people think about that. If they think there is a right decision here or not. Question: surely, if we have 150 to 200 million of after sales wages off the books, we can structure 4 to 5 year deals to really strengthen. We can really strengthen, but you have to bear in mind that we are losing 40. If we lose this, correct, it's the outcome-based answer. So this is purely an opinion question. It's purely opinion. But no, look, we're losing. We're probably going to have a drop-off without Champions League. We probably have a 40 to 60 million in revenue drop-off, which is significant. And so even if we're dispensing with 50 to 60 million in wages and such as well, then it doesn't give us a ton of room. We need the sales for the profit. We need the departures. We need, those things as well to contribute to our purchasing power. Now, we've lost 60 million. We'll lose 40 to 60 million in revenue if we miss CL. We've cut expenses by 40 to 50 million, and we'll drop wages 40 to 50 million. That's why we have anything to spend. But realistically, we need to have an amortized amount of about 40 to 50 million going into summer. So if you spend 100, that's half of that, and the other half is generally wages. Right call? Yes. Okay, so most people think it's the right call, but if it goes to Pens, you'd sub on Bayindir. Yeah, and the rough part is, will we have any subs left by that time? I would say no. We don't have that deep of a squad, but we're going to need to probably use our substitutions. I mean, I don't know that Maguire can play 120, that Lenny could play 120, There's quite a number of players. And what do you mean by that on Amorim losing the battle comparatively? Genuine question. James, had Qatar bought us and cleared the debt, would we have these same financial issues? It depends how it's cleared. Depends how it's cleared, but we would still have to make cuts because the debt is only about a third of our, or fourth of our losses. We'd still have to make cuts or somehow get in a lot of extra revenue. Obviously, it would help. The debt being gone would help no matter what. There's no doubt about that, 100%. We will see Biancheri tomorrow. I'm not sure. Not getting results. Right. Well, I wouldn't say it's ever a good thing to not get results. However, the difference is that he's not changing to get results. And so I don't know if any of you watched on Monday. Watched the United View thing. I think some of you were there on Monday. The red carpet thing with the United View that is on. And if you listen to Marcel, who is an absolute character, and I think he is so funny. But he's so positive. Sometimes maybe it's too much, but I understand exactly what he's saying, which is not dissimilar to what you're saying there. One of the things that we are getting as a benefit of Ruben Amorim continuing to do what he's doing right now is we are seeing who is not cut out for this team. We are finding out who is not real, who are the fakes. And in that respect, it's a win because we see that, we've seen that. I completely agree with that point that we've seen with most managers. They change, they adapt, and then it covers up the flaws of so many players, and then they stay forever, and then only when you don't see them do you, only when you see them later, you realize they were crap. I mean, we've had managers make Lindelof look great. We've had managers make, McFred look like our best midfield. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that those players are all bad, because I really like Fred and they all had qualities. But they adapted to the players so much that we never really, we end up overrating the players, to the point, myself included, 100% myself included. 100% myself included in that, because we see them play in a way that suits them, but the ceiling for that is poor. It's never ending. So I think it is a positive in a respect. I think that really, at the end of the day, the reason we're not winning games 9 times out of 10 just comes down to the lack of quality in the forwards. So, it is what it is. Yeah, it is what it is in that respect. I chose some, I can kind of show this. This is always the thing that interests me is we've kind of checked on this through the year. And you look at where we're going. We were in the bottom half attacking. Now we've improved. We were in the bottom half on possession. Now we've improved. Not bottom half, we were around 50%. Our counters, we're doing more of them. Our defending is getting better. Our physicality is getting better. Our pressing is getting better. But you look at our goals, and we just can't compete. And at the end of the day, I think that's the biggest challenge that we've had in the way that we're changing is we're trying to build a well-rounded team, you see? One that defends, that's more physical, that presses, that has more possession, that counters a bit less. But we just don't have the goals to back it up. And so it looks just as bad as it did last year. Because at the end of the day, you can't win games if you can't score goals. So I think we're seeing that outside of playing on the break, what has been exposed more than anything is that we cannot score goals. Is that the players cannot score goals without playing on the break. We do not have the players for it. We just don't. There ain't not that much else to say about it. So, yeah, we have to get the right people in for sure. And obviously that's the next subject to kind of discuss here. Question: can the club stop giving press access to journalists whose anti-United agenda is so clear when asking questions, likes of Jackson and Luckhurst? They can, but they probably won't unless the manager doesn't want them to come in anymore, and he doesn't particularly care about that. It's not something that bothers him. Yeah, I see questions. I see questions on the on the structure, on the build up, on things like that. And here's what I would say to you, on all of that. Stop using other teams as a reference point. Stop using other tactics as a comparison for the tactics. One of the reasons you sign and hire a young, innovative manager is because they are doing things other managers aren't. That's the whole point of signing a manager. Did Pep Guardiola play the same tactics as somebody else did? No. Did Jurgen Klopp? No. They all brought something new to the table that at the time was not traditional. It was not, what's the word I'm looking for? Common theory. It was not what other people are doing. Otherwise, what's the point? You can you can hire managers who are doing what everybody else is doing. And then you'll look at them through the lens of every other manager and say, well, every manager, no managers, conventional wisdom is, I think, the word I'm looking for. But innovation is always different. Innovation means change. Innovation means doing something people aren't doing. Nothing drives me up the wall more than looking people and saying, okay, there's a million managers with a conventional back four buildup that don't, invert their central center back, and there's no common thread between them. Some of them are winning, some of them are losing. And I think that people take far too much, read far, far, far too much into saying, well, nobody else is doing it, therefore it cannot work. I don't think that's true at all. That I don't think it's even slightly true. In fact, in most of the breakdowns of it are on things like Champions League and in areas where, United and Sporting and such were not set up to play in those levels. If you watch them in the league, you will see the solutions. There are other managers in the EPL that differ in ideology, but they all have similar build-up structures for first phase. That's fine. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I don't think it matters. You buy a manager or hire a young manager because they are doing something new. And this is something new. There is a value to this. And it is one of the things that frustrates me that I it's hard for me to break down here, and I don't like getting too deep into the tactical things. But I watched him an enormous amount at Sporting in the league, and none of the breakdowns I've seen have been of his team at Sporting in the league, where his team was built for it, where they understood the opposition, where they were doing all of that. I don't like to break it all down myself too often, but there's a value in the exact thing that is being complained about in that central center back. And not one person on Twitter has actually got it right, has actually understood why he inverts the central center back. They're only looking for the negatives in it. They actually have not seen what it has of value. And there are games this season where we've pulled it off, and you can see exactly what it has of value. But that has never been noticed, and that's one of the things that is irritating. If you're only looking for why it's not working, and again, almost all the analysis comes when we lose, not when we win. If you're only looking for why it's not working and not looking for why is he doing it? You either think he's stupid, right? Which he's not, or, there's a reason he's doing it that has value to him. And nobody has pointed that out yet of what the value is. If you look at the way, it is really hard to explain this without visuals. That usually I've done it on the Big Up platform to show it, where I can use the tactics board really easily. But essentially, you can essentially the value of it is by putting the center back up and by moving the midfield around, you actually force somebody to mark the center back in the midfield. And if you watch the way that the buildup works best as possible, and when it works the way it's supposed to, it forces teams into these overcommitments that people think is a negative. But every single time there is that commitment man to man, there's a free player on the other side of the pitch. That's not unusual. That's normal. The vast majority of build-up tactics are based on finding a free man because you have more players than the opposition in the outfield when you have the ball from the back. And there are games you can show it. The problem is, for the most part, we do not have the players capable of completing the passes, seeing the passes, and making them. 9 times out of 10, when the ball flies to the right side and it looks like we're trapped, there's an open ball to the left side. And you might say, what? A cross-field switch isn't build-up. Yes, it is. It is a build-up. It is exactly what Amorim wants. From day one, as I've said about the way he plays, the big switch. You need wide center backs and you need fullbacks that are capable of hitting a long ball successfully, because he likes to open up the team, create those transitions artificially, hit the switch to the other side, and then run with the ball and carry it. The other major factor is his 10s, he wants them to drop in, pick up the ball, and win a one-on-one battle and duel in the midfield and carry it. We don't have players who can do that. Xerxes the only one in the 10s position. That's why when he plays, we can make the ball stick. When he can't, we can't make the ball stick. But the biggest thing is wide center backs being very progressive. There's also a reason why specifically when Maguire plays, we actually look better, because Maguire is one of the best passers in the team. And you can note it games like Ipswich in the first half. You can note it in games like I don't know which one came after. There's a game that came after it. You can see it really, really well. And if you watch like the first half against Everton, when we were pressed heavily, we conceded a couple goals and we were crap. And when you watch them, if you really look for this exact thing, you will see that in every single case there's an overload. But Dowlow will come too deep. He's also not left-footed, and it doesn't suit the patterns in the way that it plays, Mazraoui, all of that, etc. There is not the players to do what he wants at this point in time, and that's why it's not working. But it's really, really easy to visualize it if you go watch some of the games at Sporting where the players can hit those passes, especially out the back. Those are the most important things. So we're seeing that they can't. There's a reason why we again had a good, it's really funny because we had 2 really good stretches. Number one, we had, when Ahmad was there, we had a stretch. When Ahmad was in the team playing at wing back because he's left-footed, he solved a lot of the build-up issues and he was scoring in the final third. Then and then he got injured. Then Lissandro started to get going. You could see his passing, his distribution, his carrying from the back as one of the wide center backs was solving all these build-up problems, and it was providing a solution. And then Lissandro gets injured. And it's been a cacophony of disasters over and over at United. Xerxes starts to solve some of our build-up issues by being a forward coming deep, pulls his fucking hamstring. This is what has happened time and time again at United, unfortunately. Our best solutions for the problems people are seeing are all injured. What are you going to do? It is what it is. We need more Ahmads. We need more Lissandros. We need more Xerxes, players who can make the ball stick. That's the reality of it. Has any manager ever turned it around after such a poor start? When Arteta came in to Arsenal, for what it's worth, I think he won 2 in his first 10 games. By the way, you can go watch his first bunch of games in the Premier League. He was shit, and they got bounced by Olympiacos in the Europa League. So, yeah, there has been. And he had a much better team than we have today and a much better squad. He still had good players, even if someone had to move on. he had a better team. They turned it around in order to build things properly. And right now, I'm starting to think they're favorites to win the Champions League, which pains me to admit. Unfortunately. But speaking of forwards, players that can make the ball stick, Semenyo, right? Yeah. Yeah, they were bad. Yeah, I still make fun of Arteta because he has screwed up essentially the long-term way that they've rebuilt by avoiding buying strikers, and they've made poor. Their first half of Arteta's tenure was really great in terms of rebuilding the team and doing things properly. The second half, they've made a lot of mistakes, mainly not buying strikers and avoiding trying to score goals. In addition to that, they're going to make a mistake this summer by buying Zubimendi. But if they go get a big striker as well, then that'll help them. But replacing unnamed, unidentified, 30-year-old with Zubimendi will be a big mistake for them. It's going to hurt them. Yeah, they did suck. They were rebuilding the whole team, and it sucked. But they pulled off the rebuild correctly. But in the second half of it, they've screwed it up. But it's still there's a something of value to take from that. And as much as I, make fun of them on that respect, because essentially to me they're like Spurs. They bottled it towards the end. They never have taken the final steps that they needed in order to do what they needed to do. So anyway, United obviously need goals, and this is the main priority in the team, because not only do you need goals from the front three, but in Amorim's system, in solving the build-up, you need your left 10 and your right 10 to come deep, add to the overload, pick up the ball, and be able to distribute it. So United are looking at these areas and a striker. As I shared in the video last week, they want 2 forwards. They're not convinced of Rasmus Højlund. They would move him on if they can. And when they missed out on Quenda, they decided that we're going to move more budget to the forwards rather than buying a like-for-like at wing-back. So realistically, without Champions League, United would like to spend in the range of 80 to 100 million in the forward line on 2 players. That's what they would like to do. Further additional sales could add to this even without Champions League, like Garnacho or whatever, but we'll talk about that in a second. But they want 2 forwards. Obviously, you're still seeing the names of like Osimhen come up today. Melissa Reddy saying that, Osimhen, Cunha, and Delap. I would say those are the 3 major targets. If United could get Champions League, then they would see if they can still pull Osimhen. He still continues to be of interest, getting a top player to come in and essentially solve the goal-scoring issues. Liam Delap and Cunha is another potential target, another potential opportunity. Xavi Simons, we spoke about him a few weeks ago. He is very much of interest to United, and he has been for some time. They really like him. He's really good. Again, when I take the qualities of players, you're again talking about players that can kind of make the ball stick. If you look at Xavi Simons as well, and you look at his carries, once again, another player who's a goal scorer and a carrier. And if you kind of compare them, like regardless of what you think about the player themselves, you can see the exact profile. Goals and carries. Cunha, Simons. Do you understand? So one of the things that's been really encouraging for me to see is that I don't think Dorgelis is in here, unfortunately. Oops, I spelled it wrong anyway. Yeah, because he's not in the top league. But interesting. But yeah, the profile of what they want is there's continuity in it, and that is an encouraging factor to me, because so many times we've seen United chase names where, they one to the next, there's no continuity between what they bring to the table. when you look at Cunha and Simons, they are two more expensive options that bring the same thing: carrying the ball and scoring goals. They run with the ball, they carry it, they score goals. Nene Dorgelis, who United are interested in, is the same. I have watched him as much as I could in the Champions League. Obviously, not a ton in Austria, but he is a similar player, and that is exactly what United are looking for from the 10. Is they want a player who can get on the ball, who can carry it, and who can score goals. That is essentially the the. Hold on, let me see if I can find this. Oh man, how do I find the stats for this? Right. Dorgelis, for example, he's got 6 goals in 1,400 minutes in Austria. He's a very good carrier of the ball. He was one of the better dribblers when he played in the Champions League as well. Another interesting factor I would add to this is the potential to actually be decent in the pressing and defensive aspects. The 10s are an important part of it, so they need to be above average. Dorgelis' graph is available on Twitter page of DataMB. Is it really? If you can link it to me, that would be helpful. Thank you. So, similar profiles of what they want there. And the idea is to get 2 attackers. Obviously, plan A, which is potentially doable without Champions League, is Delap and Cunha. You could spend in the range of 90 million and get in those players. Is there a scenario where we get 3 attackers like Cunha, Delap, and Dorgelis, say if Garnacho is sold? I think there's a potential for that, yeah. Morgan Rogers should be the blueprint of what we're looking at a 10. 100%. Agreed with that too. It's, again, a similar profile of what you're talking about here. A player to carry the ball and score goals. And if you look at, the graphs of a lot of these players, it's the same, right? High carries, high goal scoring. If you look at, Garnacho, his positioning is kind of wrong. The problem is he's a good carrier of the ball, but he's a poor scorer of goals. Excuse me. It's not going to have Ahmad, is it? Because he didn't play it. Oh, no, wait. We might. There you go again. If we want to look at Amad Diallo, carries the ball and scores goals. You understand? So it's a very, very direct and simple attribute. Now, obviously, being able to add assists and passes and things to your game is a benefit, but carry the ball and score goals. My concern with, for instance, one like Semenyo that we've been linked with recently is, and I'm telling you this today, I think he's very much like Garnacho. He carries the ball a lot. He's a dribbler. He does all of that. His shooting is incredibly erratic. It's high volume and it's very low efficient. That's why he doesn't score a lot of goals. I would be seriously concerned about that, especially for the price. But profile-wise, similar concept, but not a good enough goal scorer for me to say that he's the right guy for that position. So we have a lot of scenarios going over here, which is like if you think of them as the goal-scoring 10 and the 9, you could go Delap and Cunha, you could go Delap and Simons, you could go Osimhen and Dorgelis, more expensive at the 9, cheaper at the 10. There's a few different options kind of showing up on this basis, but they all need to be the same profile. That's really the idea, especially at the 10s. You can see what's forming. And I think part of that is that, is Dorgelis nailed on a sign? No, he's not. He's just of interest, and he's a more affordable option. But you can see that this kind of concept forming here, which is they need 2 goal scorers. You do need that. We lack it. We do not have the scorers in the team. So Simons is one. I think when they say we might need Champions League for Simons, I think the reason is I don't think he would want to join us. I think it'd be hard for us to compete otherwise. It's a difficult one, but he's potentially, available. But I think that it's a really good plan. I think that I was very encouraged to see it coming out from other people because I was talking about it just in the last few weeks, this specific thing. They've moved money from Quenda to the forwards. They've decided that they need 2 goal scorers up front, and if they get Delap, they've decided they definitely need to support him with another goal scorer. I saw Chris Wheeler say with the favorites for Delap. There's a lot of competition on Chelsea side. I think they believe that they're ahead. I'm quite certain of that they believe they're ahead. So United may think we're ahead. Chelsea may think we're ahead. We don't really know. You have the link. You can link it here, I believe. You should be able to put it in the chat, if I'm not mistaken. Does it let you paste it in the chat? I'm not like, I don't know enough about YouTube, to be quite honest, to know whether it'll let you. If it doesn't, then I can probably find it on their page. Data MB, right? Then I'll see if I can find it on their page. There you go. Oh yeah, perfect. Okay, I found it as well. I think it blocks links, to be fair, Dark Heist. I don't actually know how to do that because I'm a bad YouTuber. Check this out. All right, here we go. But yeah, this is a good one. Rodrigo and Nene. Okay, look, carries, goals. Similar players, right? In that respect, although obviously Rodrigo is better, but carry the ball, score goals. A direct forward, essentially. So yeah, I think it's in the more expensive option, but that you can utilize him. But yeah, yeah. But thank you for that. So similar concept, carry and score. Dorgelis is similar in that respect as an affordable as an affordable player. So that's obviously one of the scenarios that's kind of coming forward now. In looking at everything here. So yeah. Anyway, I believe very strongly we will get 2, and I think this is why we're not seeing like the option of Turkey, right? When you look at it, because he's not matching this profile. When I went through, if you remember, I did the 10s video and linked a lot of the players that we were talking about. There was the players who were more creative. There was the players who were more direct. And that's kind of the key there, that we want players that are a bit more direct. Another potential name that we've heard a few times that could come to the front here would be Mbeumo from Brentford. You can see he has a really similar profile to Cunha, high goals, good carries. A similar player there was Mbeumo. Okay, so this is another direct goal scoring number 10. That would be a good option, and is a physical player as well. So, these are probably, to me, the 3 best fits from the players we've been linked with, and I would say Dorgelis as well, in terms of if we want that direct number 10 who can carry and move forward. Dibbling I view as a bit of, I think, I'm not saying they've moved away from Dibbling, okay? He's going to look absolutely horrific on this chart, by the way. I'm not saying that they've moved away from Dibbling, but because of the price, because of the concerns on that respect, and because United needs someone to score goals, I think it may be taking a back seat. Dibbling has potential to be this type of player. He's really good. He already can carry the ball very well. He's a great dribbler and all of that. Obviously, he's not scored a lot of goals as of yet, right? The problem is the price, and the problem is the age, and the problem is the experience. Because if you went and get Delap and Dibbling, you have an incredibly underdeveloped front line right now that I think would be potentially difficult. I see there's a dog behind me. That would be, potentially problematic in that respect, right? It would be, not enough. Like there's concerns that we just would not have enough. I like the idea of Tyler Dibbling, and I like the idea of getting him in there too. But you're not going to go for, if he's 60, 80 million, it just would leave us too short, to do anything. Now, if you could go get Victor Osimhen and Dibbling, I think that's a really good idea, though. I would definitely be quite happy with that. If we got Champions League and we were able to get both of them, I think it'd be great. You get a really top prospect at number 10 who can also play a wingback, and you get your made for number 9. So there's a lot of scenarios that are in play here, and obviously Ruben Amorim acknowledged this very strongly. This point that I've been making a lot recently, which is it's really, 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 really hard to plan for things because they are completely and utterly dependent on where we finish. All the things that we're talking about, all the things that we're looking at, all of the plans, all of the, all of it, right? It is all dependent on where we end up at the end of the season, at this point in time. Was there something posted by MUFC MPB on was it now, or are you talking about something from before, that one thing about proposing a big salary to Osimhen or something like that? Oh, from Ali Nachi. I don't know the reliability of these, but hang on, I'll ask somebody. I mean, he's a Turkish journalist, but I don't know. I don't actually know. I'll be honest. I don't know. Obviously, there's plenty of smoke on the Osimhen thing, and there has been for a while. But yeah, look, our plans are yes, our plans are fully and entirely based on the Champions League aspect, and as I was saying in a video yesterday, that from what I understand, the way that United are moving forward right now, is like they have the things that they're looking at that they kind of want to do. They would like to do Delap and Cunha, even if they don't get Champions League, or they do get Champions League. That's still a good plan for them. That's still a strategy for them. That's still something that they want, because it's a good plan. It's two good players coming in at an affordable price on good wages. It's a good plan because then if you do get Champions League, it allows you to stretch your budget to other areas. If we win on Thursday and we go through, they're set to start exploring a little bit more of these other options. And so they would, while they haven't really done anything on Osimhen, as far as I know anyway. They haven't really particularly done anything on like a Xavi Simons and all that. But they would really start to explore these other options to see, are these possible? Because you have to wait till May 21st or so then to know whether you're getting into Champions League. But you have to be ready to kind of pull the trigger at that time and line those things up. So they'll be running two alternative plans in here, but the idea is that they have the same goal, right? The same outcome. And one of the things that can happen is they go from 2 signings to more signings. So like when Amorim won't really answer on Onana or says we can build with him, part of the point here is that if we don't have extra money, we can't spend the budget. If we do have extra money, we might be able to spend more in those positions. But if not, he would rather keep Onana and not spend the money on the forwards than compromise on the forwards to replace the keeper, if that makes sense. Even though maybe that's a little bit shakier these days. If Amorim sees Bruno as an 8 and we don't make Champions League, shouldn't we sell Mainu as he had 80 million value and Bruno is never injured? I understand what you're saying. I don't think he sees Bruno as an 8. Look at the last few games. I've said this before, right? But look at the last few games. Since the break, he's playing Bruno as a 10, hasn't he? And I truly believe that if you look at the front line, and you look at wanting to recreate what he did at Sporting, a striker, a running goal-scoring 10, and a more creative player, it's very similar to the dynamics that he created in the front three there with Gonçalves, Trincao, and Gyökeres. Bruno is pretty much a carbon copy, better version of what he had in Gonçalves at Sporting. So in an ideal world, you want one more creative 10, and you want your striker and your direct running 10. That's kind of the balance of it. Even when Amorim first came in, that's kind of how I thought it was going to be. Is that, and it kind of was at a certain point in time with like Rashford and a striker and Bruno as a front three, or, Ahmad and a striker and Bruno as a front three. So that would be the ideal iteration. The way that United get better is not compromising on Bruno to play deeper, but getting everywhere to work better. We need to solve the deep buildup without having to drop Bruno in. It doesn't make sense. He's not even the right player for deep buildup. He is a band-aid for deep buildup, and that's not me insulting him. Bruno is a passer. That's not the solution to the midfield, and it's not the solution to Amorim's buildup. It's a band-aid. The passing, he's been dropping into positions where the center backs can't hit the passes that he can hit. It's a band-aid solution. The reason he plays worse at the 10 is because then the deeper part is a problem, and we can't get the ball to the 10s. It has nothing to do with Bruno. It's team dynamics. So when Bruno plays deeper, we're able to get the ball forward more. When Bruno plays forward, we're not able to get the ball to him. It is all a matter of team dynamics in that respect. If we fix the build-up and the options we have throughout the base of the team, we don't need Bruno deep. Bruno can operate high volume on the ball in the 10. Agreed, our buildup was good when Bruno played deeper because he was band-aid fixing it. That's not the answer, though. Because even then, if you look at how he played, he was oftentimes dropping deeper into other spaces. We played better football when Bruno was not deep earlier. People forget about the good games we played beforehand. We played very good football against Liverpool away with Bruno more forward. We were starting to play very good football with Bruno forward and Lisandro deep. So, but people do forget about a lot of that. Now, Bruno's output had been a little bit better in recent times, but again, it was a solution he changed when Lisandro went down. And that is the reality of it. It's all team dynamics. It is all team dynamics. I don't think our best game at all was Sociedad at home. I don't think so. I think our best game of the season was still Liverpool away. When you consider the level of competition and all of that, we should have won that game as well. We played fantastic. It is all about the team dynamics. So we need to get the right players in to the rest of the team in order to fix this. We need the other 10s to work in order to fix it. If we move Bruno deep and then we have better 10s, he will see less of the ball. Let's say you move Bruno deep and you have Cunha in front of him. You're not going to see Bruno have the same impact he's having now. At all. You're just not. It's not going to happen. Because Cunha is going to be taking up a lot of those chances that you're seeing Bruno finish off now, that Bruno is getting to because of his immense work rate. If you have them together in the front line, then Bruno can create for someone like Cunha. But if we had better forwards and Bruno was deep, he wouldn't have the same impact. And that's fine too, but he's not necessarily the ideal player for that either. I still think in the long term it'll be Mainu deeper than anything else. So, but we will see. We'll see on that respect. Either way, Amorim has been choosing him as a 10 recently. No doubt about that. And I think that it's been actually working. It's been working. So I would rather have both in the 10 and improve the deeper part of the team. But the sales and the Champions League are going to determine a lot. So the Champions League obviously determines how far we stretch. The sales determine potentially and who we can buy, and the sales will do the same thing. Again, potential sales that we're not talking about. We know Sancho, we know, Rashford, all of that. What we also know is, but what is also true is again going back to Garnacho as being someone that could go, as well as Højlund. They really want to rebuild the front line and get as many forwards in as possible. Those sales will open the door for more. If there is a deal to be had with Napoli for Osimhen, then it realistically will be tied to one of Garnacho or Højlund leaving to Italy. Very, very realistically, it's going to be tied to one of those. The other factor then is the midfield and the center back aspect. There was actually someone from a piece in Ebola last night that United are following again Gonzalo Inacio, and there was a piece today about Ederson as well. So the two kind of profiles that they're still looking at here are an all-action 8 in the midfield and a progressive passing left-footed center back. One of the concerns that I really have right now, and I've mentioned this before, is that relying on potentially Aiden Heaven, who's played one game and now is at another setback, and Per Sully was stretchered off again today after a tackle, that is a serious concern to me, because we don't know when Lissandra will be back. It's not enough. De Ligt, Maguire, Yoro, and Mazraoui as center backs. I think what it comes down to is this: if we don't get Champions League, I don't think we'll buy anything significant at center back. But if we do get Champions League, then I believe we will want to go forward. CB is one of the most stacked positions in terms of quality and quantity, but it's also the most injury-prone area. It is. And so, going into next season, Johnny Evans is leaving, Lindelof is leaving. Thank goodness for that. We have fewer players. We're really only going to have 4. We still need a left-footed center back. And if we're in the Champions League, you can't be saying, oh, yeah, great. We're going to just pray that Lenny Yoro, Maguire, and De Ligt and Mazraoui, that none of them get injured, because De Ligt is injured. He's not back yet. Maguire, we know, is somewhat injury prone at his age. Lenny Yoro is still a very young player. And Heaven is injured again, potentially here. And Lissandra isn't coming back for a while. We've got to get a center back to compete in Champions League. If we're in multiple competitions, we have to get a center back. So again, speaking about solving the deep buildup with the center backs, Gonzalo Inacio is perfect in a profile standpoint. Gerard Braithwaite is perfect from a profile standpoint. So I would still strongly keep an eye on a physical, Inacio may have some struggles with physicality, but I would strongly keep an eye on a left-footed progressive player. Because otherwise we are literally betting on Lissandro coming back when he comes back, doing great, Shaw staying healthy, or Heaven after one start. We can't do that if we're in the Champions League. We cannot let that happen. So we know that there's Jimenez, we know that there's the kid from Fenerbahce, and we know that there's the more expensive options in Braithwaite and potentially Inacio. Those are ones I would keep in mind, but I do not think we will do it without Champions League. But if we do, then that will become a topic again. I can tell you that. In the midfield, again as well here, this is dependent on 2 factors, which is Champions League and Casemiro. Without Champions League, without the competitions and Casemiro here, I kind of believe that there's a reality where we don't make a signing there. That because we just can't spend much money there. That between the options of Menu, Casemiro, Ugarte, obviously Bruno being able to play in that positions, and as well, the potential promotion of Kone or something like that we may not. That being said, if we can get a cheap deal, and I still think Hayden Hackney is the right one there, then good. Ederson will not happen without Champions League and potentially Casemiro being sold. But he is a very good player as well. That fits into it. I like him a lot. He's physical. He's all action. He's all of that too, and that would be great. So it's kind of crazy. There's so, and this is what I'm saying. It's so up in the air, and that's why Ruben Amorim was saying like it's so up in the air. All of this. It's just, yeah. I mean, it's all so up in the air. At this point in time, just due to this, I really do not know. What will happen on a few of these things. I think the thing we can bet on is a combination in the forwards of getting two, because those are our top priorities, that we want to get two of like Osimhen, Delap, Cunha, Simons, Dorgeles, Dibbling. Like we want a mixture of two in there. If we cannot get Delap or Osimhen, who would we get a striker? I really don't know. But maybe we do go for a more a later one. So we'll see there. It's kind of crazy in that respect. But I think those are the only two positions you can bank on us buying someone, unless major sales or Champions League. Then we'll start to move to all these other spots: midfield, center back, goalkeeper. So yeah, I think that's potentially possible. There's some base links to Schick, sorry, the other day. I don't know. Maybe something like that. Maybe something like that at striker if we miss out on our main targets and we don't have Champions League. Just someone to fill the gaps for now. I don't know about that one, though, to be quite honest. Obviously, United had looked at him in the past. But I do not think if we miss on Delap that we'd be going for Šeško or Ekitike, because we're just not going to pay 80 million for those players. We just cannot. It just doesn't seem like something like that is on the cards for us for young prospects. I don't think that's it. Schick could be the Cavani. He could be. He could be. I have serious doubts about him, but at the same time, he's a decent veteran player, and all of that. We are interested in Šeško. We have been for a long time. At 80 million, unless that price is coming down to the 40-50 range, there's just no way, man. There's just no way. We're not buying another young prospect for 80 million. We're not buying any of them at that price. Anton Stack for midfield. Yes and no. It depends. I think we're more likely to be buying more of the 8 than the 6, but it also all depends on Casemiro. Do we know what's wrong with De Ligt and how long he's out for? He's just got an ankle injury. It's not supposed to be that bad, but it's not day to day, but it's kind of like we're just kind of waiting for him to not have pain. It's one of those things with ankle injuries. You kind of wait till there's nothing really wrong, but you want them to not have pain. And there's you can speed that process up with injections and things like that if you want them to just play through it. But essentially they're saying, why risk that right now? We can't really risk that because then you can get a worse injury, and that's kind of the decision that's been made. So yeah, so we will have to see. It is a crazy time. With Casemiro's statement, will he dig his feet and try to see out the rest of his huge contract? I don't think like that. I think it just depends on offers, It just depends on offers. And then there's other young options like Joe Bellingham and such too. But I honestly don't know that those players are going to be cheap, like at all. Yeah, in the slightest. Okay. Lyon, I want to preview that a little bit. And talk about it because obviously we know that Chris Riggs going to be really expensive and there's a ton of competition for him, but he's also a forward. I don't think he's a midfielder in our team. The more I've looked at it, the more I've looked at it, the more I don't believe he is a midfielder for Manchester United. For tomorrow's team, obviously we now know that Onana is going to be starting. And we don't have a ton of options here, you guys. Like when you start to build this team out, I'm not saying it's bad. I think it's a lineup that'll probably can win this game based on how we've played in the last few games. Especially, it's not. I think you pretty much go with what you went with in the first leg because it was one of the worst performances ever from Højlund and Onana, and we still should have won. So we might as well play kind of the same team. We know that Casemiro got a rest and he's going to start in there. We don't have options, do we? Do we even have anybody? Like, who else could even start from the team we set out last week? I don't even think we have choices here. Unless you're starting Mount or Mainu, but I don't believe we'll be starting Mainu. There's also potentially talk that he's questionable for the game. Shaw won't start. Mount, I just can't see Mount starting. I can't see it. If it were me, though, I would run this out for Thursday. Because Mount's played enough that technically he's fit enough. It's just he hasn't been. I would definitely play that front three. I think Garnacho should be starting over Højlund. I don't think Højlund. Garnacho's done more to start than Højlund. I mean, it's not like it's been great, but Højlund has been on another level of bad recently. Cunha and Osimhen possible if we sell well, boss? Yeah, Tubby, with Champions League, yeah. Maguire Knight, we don't even have center backs. Smokey, like, unless we're starting Lindelof, and you don't want to see that. Nobody wants to see that. You know? We just don't have choices in this. So yeah, I don't know. We just don't have choices in this. Yeah, I don't think there's any other team that can be put out. Our bench went from strong to weak again because Xerxes injured, Mainu's questionable, De Ligt is injured. Dorgu up top, Amos left wing back. It's interesting. It's not like Dorgu has played right wing a few times. Not a few times. He played half the season at right wing. What if you did that? What if you put Amos here and you put Dorgu over there? It's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting. Team is literally awful. I actually thought Dorgu was pretty good against he was good and bad. He was good and bad, but against Lyon he created a few chances as well. And that's kind of how it's been. He creates chances but has had some poor games. But yeah. Yeah, Cheeto can't play in the team. Next season, I think you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 different starters. I'm pretty sure Amorim was happy with our performance against Lyon, and Bruno was not deep, so yeah. What strikers can play tomorrow? A Højlund. Højlund, that's it. That's it. So, the only change I think you could make is getting Mount in for Hoyland. But otherwise, it's probably the team. I mean, something like that. Anything about the Mercedes guy we're supposed to hire? I don't know, but obviously it's something. It's something we're doing. So bench will be almost all academy players. Yeah. And speaking on that, on a final kind of note, we've got, one of the questions have been asked, and as kind of exploring is Mentato, right? So the number the under the under 21s played the last game on Tuesday. Mentato got another assist. He's been really good in the other 21s level, and it's been a wonder because we've been talking about why. I'm not doing the Ugarte thing again. You're wrong. You're misremembering completely everything. Well, we're gonna leave it at that. You have brain rot. Obviously he's extremely highly rated. He's due for a new contract, or it's agreed to get a new contract, and all of that, and he will play in the first team soon. But the question is, okay, so we have other ones. Why has Mentato not stepped up into that level? That's something I'm exploring, and I have a half answer that I need to explore more on that I got today, which is that they want him in the first team as soon as possible. There's other reasons he's not. I don't know the specifics of it yet, but I will find out. But I can tell you today, 100%, that they absolutely want Mentato in the first team as soon as possible, and would have him there tomorrow. Absolutely do. And he would be with the first team, maybe permanently, maybe even playing games. So we'll move on from that. Yeah. No, it's because the Casemiro thing is total bullshit. Like I said, you have brain rot. Casemiro was bad for 7 months, and he has 3 good games, and it's Casemiro's our best midfielder. You are cooked. You are blind. You are so agenda-driven. It is insane, and I cannot comprehend with that. People watch Casemiro throw the ball away for 18 months, and they say because you've had 3 good games, he's the best midfielder. No, you're cooked. You are totally wrong. You are totally and completely wrong. And the people saying that were the ones screaming the loudest for him to be sold all summer and all the way up until about 3 games in Europe. And it is such a bad opinion, and it is so agenda-driven, and it is so ugly because it is only being used, and it is so twisted to try to attack one player that people have used this insane agenda to try to target, and it is absolutely ridiculous. It is so ridiculous. It's unbelievable. You are liars. You change your mind. You flip-flop on a dime. 3 good games for Casemiro, where he's still completely terrible most of the time out of possession. And people say, he's amazing, he's amazing. No, he wasn't, because 18 months, people are saying he launches the ball, and now it's progressive passing. You're wrong. You're bullshitting. Fix it. I'm not going to debate it anymore. I'm not even going to debate it anymore. It's so weird. It is so weird. Yeah, at 2-1 at Lyon, Casemiro gave the ball away, which was a part of why we conceded, and it gets ignored. Nobody looks at it. Nobody talks about it. Nobody thinks about it. They just pass it up. And that is how I always know that there is an agenda at play. He is a useful player in Europe, and that's as much as it is. And I'll leave it at that. Okay, that's what I wanted to talk about today. I think that is everything. 1 hour and 15 minutes, so that's a good one. Yeah, and that got not 1/10 of the attention that Ugarte got for giving the ball away against Newcastle. Not 1/10 of the attention when Casemiro gave it away in the 93rd minute of a Europa League knockout. It gets none of the attention. It is completely agenda-driven. It totally is. It 100% is. People do not see with their eyes what is happening. So, Yeah, it's all good. So we'll leave it at that. I will be back tomorrow morning for pre-match against. I will be back for the pre-match against Lyon, and then obviously I'll be live on Big Up to watch it. Huge game. We need to win one way or another. Obviously, if we don't win, the season's over. That's it. It's the end of the season. That's it. There's nothing else to watch. We're just done. We just have to watch the season end. We just have to sit and accept our fate as a 13th place in the Premier League club. The positive of that is we're probably going to do that anyway. To be fair, we probably have to do that anyway. To be fair, we will have to. Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more kids. Like, obviously, we saw Amos get the minutes on Sunday against Newcastle. I think we're going to see the youth start a few of the youth get more chances, certainly in the Premier League, because, we're completely out of the race for Europe and all of that. We are completely out of it, and yeah. But that could be the good thing. But it would be nice to have a game that we can care about in between and before that happens. Okay. But yeah, that's it. I'll be back tomorrow. I feel the same way about the Ugarte Casemiro thing as I do about Amorim. The same people will pipe up when we lose and talk about how the tactics don't work, the system don't work, all of that. But they will not recognize it. And the people who do that had a pre-built, for the most part, agenda against a player. They didn't like him when they signed him. They didn't like him when we brought Amorim in, or they had big doubts on the tactics. And they will only find the points that reinforce that and not look at the balanced perspective of it. And that is the part that I don't like about the discourse, because it is hugely representative of the same issue. The number of people that went on about Amorim's tactics after Sunday was crazy to me. Absolutely insane. When you look at the lineup we fielded, when you look at the reasons we conceded goals, to even speak about tactics was nuts. It makes no sense. There's no logic to it. There's no sensibility to it. And it's the same kind of discussion. I don't like that negative confirmation bias against people who have been here for less than a season, passing those kinds of judgments. I think that's kind of wild. But people are doing it to Amorim and creating a toxic environment around the manager, and they're doing it to players and creating a toxic environment around him while ignoring the same for others who have just been here. And that is wild. I don't understand the need for that. Yeah, Mazraoui slips and gives the ball away, right? It is what it is. It's the things that happen. The things that happen are kind of crazy in that game. It was just one of those days. and I have no idea why people were talking about Amorim after that for the same reason. All right, let's leave it there. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. I will see you later. Have a good one. Goodbye. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the Champions League. We'll see if Madrid can suddenly pull things off. If anything, you could talk about team selection. Correct. And that's the thing. We obviously threw it away. Look, we started Eriksen in the midfield and Lindelof at the back and Amos at left back for a debut. It is what it is. That's what we've done. So, shit. But we threw it away. And I think we threw it away essentially on purpose. It's okay. But yeah, let's see the games tonight and enjoy those, and then hopefully we can get somewhere tomorrow and we're not speaking Thursday afternoon and saying season's over and waiting. It's April. I really, really don't want to have to wait and only be talking about transfers from April 17th until September. Oh my God, May, June, July. 4.5 months. Oh, I cannot do that.